What's up, everybody? What's up? How we doing? How we doing? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. We are back, unlike Brian Dable. Happy trails. Happy trails to the New York Giants football head
Thank
coach. Happy
God.
trails.
Thank God.
Happy trails. Jackson Dart, please get better. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on a wonderful episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Fabio. I'm joined as always with Roger and Knack. We're very excited to have you here on this wonderful episode. I mean, they're all wonderful. Let's be honest now. Like if you've been following along with us for the last year and a bit, you understand that we bring the juice every single week, and that's what we're here to do again. Let's do it. So before we begin, please have to remind all of our loyal listeners and all of the new listeners that might be plugging in for the first time. Um, Please follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter for weekly fantasy breakdowns all season. Send us your waiver questions. Please send us your sit start questions. Send us every single question that you can possibly send us wardrobe questions. If you want to know what tie to wear to that business meeting, send us that because we're gonna give you answers for that as well. All right. Send us everything you got in your little handbag, in your little satchel. Send us all your questions. We're here for you, the fans. This is what we do every single week. We live, we die, we breathe, we eat, we sleep fantasy football. We're all in a bunch of leagues and we do this for fun and we do this to have a good time. So send us all your questions. We love talking about this stuff day in and day out. So don't be shy. Please follow, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Send it out to people that have never even heard of us before. That way they can get on this bandwagon too, because it's a lot of fun, just like this episode right now. We're going to start off with a nice segment here. It's called the opening drive. Roger's going to talk about some trade deadline stuff. Some guys you should be targeting, some guys you should be not targeting and trading away. Knack's going to keep us honest like he always does with the love hates and see how we did last week, and hopefully we can do better this week. So that's it. And I'm just doing the intro because that's really all I'm good for. Let me just gonna
And
gonna
you
hand.
do it well. You do it well. Don't worry. Don't
I,
worry.
I have my little 2.5 minutes of spotlight over here. But please, ladies and gentlemen, please continuing to listen, share, like, subscribe. Find us on all the social medias like we just said right now. I want to pass it on to Roger. He's going to get us going with the opening drive. He's going to talk us about some really interesting trade targets, both from the kind that you want to be looking towards if you're making the fantasy playoffs, and kinds you want to be trading away if you want to get some you want to get some assets for later on. So here we go, Raj. Take it away.
Thank you, Fab.
Drive.
Opening drive.
Great team. Thank you, Fab. Week 11, trade deadline season. Actually, very important to note, if you're on a sleeper league, the default trade deadline is this weekend. And if you're on Yahoo, the default trade is November 22nd. So this is great timing for us to talk about some key trade targets that you should buy or sell. We're going to go maybe a bit more different, where we're going to talk about under the radar trade targets and maybe some players who, look, you can't really drop, but maybe you could trade away and maybe just get away from that bandwagon because you can't really trust. So I'll start off with JJ McCarthy. So if you're struggling at QB, especially in Superflex, you have Bryce Young, you have Mariota, you have Davis Mills. Fab sounds like you, sounds a bit like me. McCarthy is a sneaky stash, and it's not necessarily for now, it's for later. You know, this is a time where you want to start thinking about the fantasy playoffs. And JJ McCarthy gets the worst ranked pass defense in Dallas. He gets the Giants, who, yes, they have a good pass rush, but still the pass defense has been struggling. And in Detroit as well, they've been able to be got. So they're all beatable through the air, and you're hopefully banking that the chemistry with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison hopefully starts clicking by then, because there's talent across the board and there's been minuscule flashes by 9.
Minuscule.
I like this call a lot. Actually, I did try to trade for JJ McCarthy in Bush League last week. I tried to offer Garrett Wilson before his injury to Robbie. And it was a fair trade. Robbie just said no because he needed JJ, and that's fine, But like I did try to get him. Like I needed help at QB, and then you see the playoff schedule, which I know it's outside chance I make, but still, you got to be looking for the future. Yeah, I like this call.
Totally. Next, we have Alvin Kamara. He's the RB30 over the last 5 weeks. Not what you usually typically see from Alvin Kamara. He's been hitting benches everywhere. He's been on my bench in another league. I've seriously thought about cutting him, but he has a dream playoff scenario week 15 through 17. Panthers, Jets, and Titans. Panthers have been better against the run, but still the Jets and Titans, that's as bad as it gets against the run. I think he'd be a perfect throw in for a trade. It's a low risk, high upside. And if he starts catching on with the PPR, which I think with Tyler Shuck, the offense has looked better. Has only been one game, but let's see if maybe the offense could start getting better. And I think he could be a really easy buy low candidate as a throw in. Next up, we have Jakobi Meyers. Look, it's only been one game, but the first game against the Jags, he was already second in targets and he had a 50% route share. BTJ is in the doghouse. We know there's been issues with him and Trevor Lawrence. Travis Hunter is going to be out for the season. That's really unfortunate. So he's going to be placed on IR. I think Meyers slides right into the kind of Trevor Lawrence short yardage game comfort zone that he's typically had. We've seen Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram have really good success with Trevor Lawrence. Seems like Lawrence doesn't have as much success with the kind of longer range wide receivers. Look what he did with Parker Washington this week as well, more of the short intermediate guy. So I think Jakobi Meyers, either you could trade for him or he might even be on the waiver wire as well. Next up, we have Jerry Jeudy. Again, think under the radar guys. We're not telling you to go and try to get Derrick Henry just because he's been struggling. Like no one's going to trade for Derrick Henry, right? No one's going to try to trade Derrick Henry. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is a really good example. Quietly seeing a 23% target share throughout the year. Yes, the numbers haven't been good or bear fruit, but he just put up 6 for 78 last week against the Jets. He gets Chicago, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh in the fantasy playoffs. Kind of like a mid-tier schedule. But we know if the Browns offense it could stay balanced, and we see a bit more signs from Dylan Gabriel, maybe even Shadur Sanders comes on, I think he could be a nice flex starter. We saw last year with Jeudy, he really came on in the second half. He seems like more of a second half player, so that could be a one that could be a good throw in as well. Next up, you have Tua Tagovailoa. So this one is purely schedule based. Again, thinking of the fantasy playoffs, weeks 15 to 17, Steelers, Bengals, and Bucks. That Bengals matchup could be really, really juicy. That's a one that you kind of have to start regardless of almost who you have at QB. He'd be the perfect QB2 from a stash position. And I thought he looked really good last game, despite even the 2 interceptions. And he had a 4 touchdown game recently against the Falcons as well. So 2 of the last 3 games where Tua has looked more than competent. And it sounds like the team is starting to buy into Mike McDaniel. I have 2 honorable mentions. Aaron Jones, he's back healthy, 72% snap share, 69% rush share last game. Looks like the Jordan Mason era is kind of gone in terms of him being their focal point. He gets Dallas, the Giants, and the Lions in the playoffs. That's an RB2 floor with a potential RB1 ceiling. And I think this could be an interesting one. David Montgomery. Dan Campbell took over the play calling from Johnny Morton last game. We saw that paid dividends for Jameson Williams. It really paid dividends for David Montgomery. He saw a big snap share bump. He saw an even bigger bump in terms of long down and distance, where he's the better back in pass protection. I think you're going to see more of him from a rushing standpoint and potentially from a PPR standpoint as well.
So it was interesting. Campbell actually gave the running backs their drive. So he was alternating them every single possession. So no matter what it was, if Montgomery started the drive, he was there for first, second, and third down and the whole drive, unless they got down to the red zone and they could shift stuff around. But it was interesting to see, and it made it look a lot better rather than first and second down, he comes on third or vice versa and like interchanges them all the time. Yeah, he gave them their own drive.
That's great insight.
They did that last year too. I had Jahmyr Gibbs last year, and I was obviously following every single Detroit Lions game. They did a lot of that last year too, and at times it was frustrating. But Knack, to your point, like it did really balance out the offense, and it made both players play better.
Yeah.
How impressive is Dan Campbell? Like you see him as this like meathead type, bite your kneecap off, and then he could take over play calling in a whim. That is extremely impressive for a CEO type coach.
Someone brought that up. I was reading on Twitter. It's like Dan Campbell's like he's been an offensive mind for his entire NFL career. Like he played tight end for like a bunch of teams. He's always been in the offense. He understands it a lot better than people think, and it's true, right? When you look at his body of work and all that, like it doesn't surprise me after you read all of that. But at the time, I was like you, and then like everybody else, I'm like, Dan Campbell is running plays. Like, does this really make sense? And it makes a lot of sense when you look at it.
Looks can be deceiving, right? Like you think of all these offensive gurus, they're like they look like nerds basically, and you see Dan Campbell like a hulking behemoth. It's like, oh, that guy has to be. Yeah, exactly. So, just I'm curious, guys, if there was maybe one of these players in terms of kind of the potential players to buy trade targets, who would you choose quickly?
Aaron Jones for me. Like when he's healthy, and you saw what he did in that offense last year. When he's healthy, he's the guy. And if KOC wants him to play and play all the downs and all that stuff for as long as he's healthy, like he's gonna bring you back a very, very nice return if you trade for him.
Aaron Jones always finishes the year really strong.
Yeah. Well, I would probably go with David Montgomery. Like I said, I just loved what they did, how he took over the play calling and actually gave them their drives and gave them like, hey, this is you on this drive. Like there's no subbing out, and so I think they could be Sonic and Knuckles again.
Yeah.
In the late season push.
Love it. So now we're going to talk about players to trade away. So we're going to start with DK Metcalf. It's been a bit tough for DK Metcalf and the Steelers. I was the proponent that this connection wasn't necessarily going to be sustainable. Metcalf isn't necessarily the type of wide receiver that Rodgers typically flourishes with. I think he's been volatile. We were talking about it just previously before we went live, where they're not even targeting him. And then he's going to face a relatively tough defense, I would say. Some tough defenses, maybe not Miami, but Detroit and Cleveland in the fantasy playoffs. Cleveland is one that I find interesting. The pass rush that they get could really bother Aaron Rodgers to the point where I don't know if Metcalf is going to be able to come to fruition. So we'll see how that factors in. But I think Metcalf could be one where, name brand, you're able to get rid of. Next up, you have DJ Moore, 0 points last week, very inconsistent usage. Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, and Olamide Zacchaeus are all stealing routes from him. He had season lows across the board, whether it's from a snap share percentage of 62%, or only four targets, a season low as well in week 10. So obviously still name brand is still high, but I would try to cash out on that front. Next one, we have a very polarizing one in Bo Nix. I don't think the coach trusts him, and I don't think you should either, despite all the gaudy numbers. If you just look at the Raiders game, that was a game where you would expect the offense to really come out and show out. Everything's been short and safe. The downfield connections, whether it's with Cortland Sutton or even the ones we've hopefully tried to see with Troy Franklin, really haven't connected. I think the box scores also have been just mediocre outside of a few quarters where he's been able to kind of save his fantasy weeks. So gets pretty tough matchups in Green Bay and Kansas City in the fantasy playoffs. So I think this is one where you could sell based off what it looks like from a fantasy points perspective, but knowing that there's a bit of inconsistency. And we're going to stay on the quarterback as well there with Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love's another one where you should look to sell on this front. No Tucker Kraft. We've talked about the wide receivers. There's no reliable wide receiver whatsoever. And the stuff that Jordan Love was really good at the last 2.5 years or so, the big plays, have completely just been disappeared. He's looked awful the last two games, no touchdowns. We saw how he looked against the Eagles, and he gets a Denver defense and a pretty surging Ravens defense in the fantasy playoffs as well. And then finally, a player that I own quite a bit of, Woody Marks. Backfield's a bit of a mess. He looks to be the third down back for now, but his explosive run rate has been very, very low. 7% explosive run rate. That's on par with what Nick Chubb is doing. For a guy who kind of is supposed to be more explosive, quite a bit younger than Nick Chubb, he's not really providing the big plays for the Texans. And he's been stifled quite a bit at the line of scrimmage. He's had some really bad, inefficient games going forward. So I think if you were to kind of try to get rid of him, you'd see the points are there. You'd see the PPR as well as there. But I think he could be flipped for like an Alvin Kamara, and even I'd rather have a Zach Charbonnet or Kenneth Walker III over Woody Marks. So, any guys there that you guys are keying in on that should be trade candidates, or any other ones that you could think of?
I mean, I can definitely key in on Jordan Love. I think there's some name value there, and even Bo Nix if you want to. If you're concerned about the rest of season schedule and their playoff schedule, because Jordan Love, to me, I'm a little bit out on him, to be honest with you. Like he started off super hot, and now at least Bo Nix, you get that rushing upside.
Yeah,
you don't really get that with Jordan Love, and I just don't think that the ceiling is as high as everyone thought it was going to be with him. Yeah, those are the two guys that if I have them on my team, I'm looking to trade.
You might You might also be able to get a DK Metcalf pretty cheap right now. And oddly enough, I know you mentioned the Browns. That was his second best performance of the year early on, and he saw 9 targets in that game, 4 for 95 and a touchdown. Um, and based on his last few performances, he could go for pretty cheap down the stretch. And I don't know, the wide receivers right now on the wire is very very gloom.
I just think of like our buddy Guido, where he's like he has DK, like he's such a hard player to start on a week to week basis.
Yeah, he is.
For sure.
Very inconsistent. That's someone I wouldn't want to have to deal with that again, like going forward.
DJ Moore, I won't be surprised if you even see him on your waiver wire in some leagues.
I was going to bench him this week, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. had an emergency appendectomy, so I'm unfortunately going to have to start DJ Moore again. But so that's it for our Week 11 opening drive. So that was some trade targets. Again, please have a look at your fantasy league settings, whether you're on Yahoo, Sleeper, ESPN, for those who use that, or even NFL Network. Fab, Nak, let's get into love-hate Week 11 and talk about which of these guys we're actually going to start and actually going to get some wins from.
Love-hate.
Let's go. Thank you, Raj. Great opening drive as always. So now it's time to shift our focus to our Week 11 love-hate picks, where we break down the players we love and hate to help you lock in that Week 11 win. But first, as always, we like to keep yourselves honest, so we take a look back at how our Week 10 picks turned out. Not the greatest week for the Bush League Huddle. Unfortunately, our record was 6-9 this week. Quickly, Fab, you went 2-3, losing on your loves of DJ Moore and Jordan Addison. You did hit on your love of Juwan Johnson at the tight end position. Missed on your hate of Chris Olave. Your hates lately have been like
not good,
huge. They've had really good games. So maybe the reverse is true this week, guys. Keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
And you also hate. You also won on your hate of DK Metcalf, who that game was just. Putrid,
a blind person can pick that hate properly. I mean, I can't think of that.
Wow, put it in deeper the knife a little bit.
Jesus,
Raj, you went
Disaster.
1-4 this week. Lost out on the loves of RJ Harvey and Kenneth Walker, and also on your hates of Travis Etienne and Kamani Vidal. But you did win with your tight end love of Dalton Schultz. And I went 3-2 this week. Lost on my loves of JJ McCarthy and Justin Fields. Justin Fields, I don't know what happened to him from a fantasy perspective, but I did win on all 3 of my hates. I had Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, and Luke Musgrave.
Just so Fab, do you owe me lunch for the Juwan Johnson?
No, you owe me lunch because Juwan Johnson got more points than Dalton Schultz.
He did?
Yes, by 0.1, by basically a yard. Yes.
Is it lunch or I have to read your?
Well, it's going to be lunch now. I definitely want lunch. You don't need to read my stuff.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Let's do lunch.
You know, unless you want to read my hates and put them as your loves, because apparently that's how things are rolling for me lately.
All right, so let's get into our love hates for Week 11. Fab is going to be taking the reins on the quarterbacks. I'll keep the party rolling with the running backs, and then Raj will bring us home with the wide receivers. Then we'll quickly wrap it up with a quick rundown of 3 tight ends we either love or hate for the week. And just a reminder for everyone, the Colts and Saints are on bye this week, so plan your lineups accordingly. All right, Fab, so start us off with the quarterbacks you're loving and hating this week.
So my 2 loves this week are Geno Smith versus Dallas and Marcus Mariota at Miami. So real quick, we're going to go right in.
Whoa.
Yes.
Did you just say Geno Smith and Marcus
Geno
Mariota?
Smith versus Dallas and Marcus Mariota at Miami. So real quick, Geno Smith versus Dallas. You start him. You start him in every format. I kid you not, he is a top 10 play. I'm not even kidding. Not because Geno is good, but because Dallas is that bad. The only QB to not score 20 fantasy points versus Dallas is Jaden Daniels. And that's because he got injured.
Interesting.
Don't have to speak more about this than I already just did. You start him over Bo Nix. You start him over Michael Penix. You start him over Mac Jones and or Brock Purdy. Because I don't even know who's starting this week. It could be either one of the two, to be honest. I think it's Brock Purdy, but They have changed it midweek before, so who knows? I would even go as far as to start him over Jared Goff, who's facing Philly. You do not overthink
yeah.
it. Geno Smith versus Dallas.
Yeah,
Brock
Dallas is.
Brock Bowers is going to get 35 receptions for 400 yards and 17 touchdowns.
I'm starting Trey Tucker this week.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great play. Like Dallas can't stop a nosebleed. They give the most amount. Hold on, let me bring up the stats for you guys. That way you guys can see it. Hold on a second.
He's already dead. They're already dead. Stop. Stop. They're already
The most amount of
dead.
fantasy points per game. The highest yards per attempt. Well, tied for. Well, actually, hold on a second. Are they the highest? Second highest at 8.2. The highest is the Commanders. Like the most amount of passing touchdowns per. Like guys, like Geno Smith versus Dallas. He chucks it. He throws the ball. This is going to be a high scoring affair. And we all know that Geno Smith can get to the ceiling of a 30-point game. And I wouldn't be surprised if he hits 20, 25, 27 points. Come at me. I don't care.
You're
That's
back on the
big.
bandwagon.
That's big.
It's great to see you were out. You were very, very much out, and you're completely back in.
It's very matchup dependent. And I think when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, who give up the most amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks.
Really? Do they?
Yes.
I didn't get that.
Yes. Did you not get that?
I
Did you
didn't
not
get that the first time.
Did you not? Just for reference, he put up 4 touchdowns and 284 yards versus Jacksonville, who put up the second most amount of points to quarterbacks. So he's very matchup dependent, and this is very fantasy friendly. So start him, have fun, enjoy a top 10 play. My next guy is Marcus Mariota. So he's another guy that I'm starting in all formats in a plus matchup. Miami give up the 8th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, and Mariota has been very good in relief for Jaden Daniels. 3 out of 4 games he started, he's put up 19 plus fantasy points. The one where he didn't, he put up 15 versus Kansas City. So it's still a very solid floor, but I think this week we're chasing the upside a lot more. And I think this is why he's going to finish somewhere in the top 15. He's another must start for me in almost all formats, and I would consider starting him over a lot of the guys I just mentioned before, like a Bo Nix, like a Michael Penix, the Brock Purdy's. Jared Goff is probably where I'm like, do I really want to do that? But there's is a very, very plus matchup here for Marcus Mariota and the Commanders and company.
Very nice. Very nice.
So that's it. You guys got nothing to stop. Okay. Well, I guess I'm convincing.
No. I'm definitely pausing for Marcus Mariota. Geno Smith. There's a path to him for him to get to top 10. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
Mariota
also gets a lot of work on the ground. Don't forget. And Miami are
5 for 22, 8 for. Look, I get it.
He's ranked ahead of like Sam Darnold, which is like to me doesn't make sense. And like,
I mean, the Rams are a good defense, but still, I don't like that much either.
Even Brissett at 18, I feel like.
Brissett is the only quarterback in the last 4 weeks that's had at least 20 fantasy points per game.
Yeah. That's
like
what I'm saying.
Brissett's on fire.
He's at QB 18, and he's like, I like him more than Mariota.
They're definitely propping Mariota up a little bit too much for my liking. I mean, do I see him finishing in that spot where he's ranked right now? Totally see it. But Geno Smith is more of he's like buried in the rankings right now, and like, no, you got to put him in your lineups. I don't really care.
I agree with the Geno Smith. Marcus Mariota maybe.
I still think it's a plus matchup. I still think he's going to get a good amount of points, and I wouldn't be surprised if he outperforms his ranking.
Terry McLaurin's out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what else is new, right? I mean, does the sun rise in the morning? I mean,
it's a hellacious season for the Commanders this year.
Yeah, it is. It's very tough. So we're going to move on to my hates right now. Baker Mayfield and San Francisco quarterback, insert name here. Baker Mayfield versus
what is
Buffalo.
going on? Like,
come at me in the comments. I don't care. Do you guys understand how good of a defense Buffalo is right now? Buffalo have only given up.
Them up. Tua just carved them up last week.
Tua carved them up for 2 touchdowns and 173 yards, and he still only scored 14.82 fantasy points. So carving up for 172. Ugh. We'll have to redefine your definition of carving up there, Nak. Yes, Miami won. Yes, but that was on the heels of a Devon Achane performance like he always does. So let me just finish my spiel, okay? Buffalo have only given up more than 16 fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks once all season. It was Lamar Jackson in week 1, and he got 30. Since then, they've held every single quarterback they faced to sub 16 points. This includes Drake the Truth May, who had 12 points, and Patrick Mahomes the 4th, or whatever it is, to 11 points. Buffalo has shut down coverage metrics versus tight ends. They have strong cornerback coverage numbers and are very good against vertical passes. Baker is a sit for me in one quarterback leagues.
Sit.
You're nuts.
Yes.
Sit.
Yes.
You're nuts.
You're a
Yes.
sicko.
Come at me in the comments.
Are you engagement farming? Because you don't have to engagement.
I'm not
farm
engagement farming. I'm not
if you don't
engagement
believe
farming.
this.
I love
That
Baker.
is
I love
definition
Baker.
of spicy right there.
I love Baker. But you think about the injuries that this team has, right? From a running back perspective and a wide receiver perspective. You think about the very tough matchup that they're facing versus Buffalo, who have held very good quarterbacks to very low numbers. I'm sorry. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that he finishes outside of the top 12.
So the Buffalo run defense is horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think you may get got is the run defense is so bad they get into red zone opportunities where Baker has been. I don't have stats in front of me. Baker's usually pretty good in the green area.
So he hasn't rushed for a single yard in the last 3 games. And he hasn't
Baker?
he also hasn't rushed for a touchdown all season.
Yeah, so, he scored 3 touchdowns last game. He didn't have an attempt or a rushing yard.
I'm just putting it out there. I don't disagree with you. It's a very good point that you bring up. All the same. Baker for me. Strong consideration for a sit in one quarterback league. And then you have San Francisco quarterback, whether it's Mac Jones or Brock Purdy. They're playing Arizona this week. Arizona is quietly putting up together a very strong, very solid D, and this is not a matchup that I'm fond of from a fantasy perspective, especially consider quarterbacks and wide receivers. So last week, Cardinals held MVP candidate Sam Darnold to under 7 points and give up the 5th least amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks. Seattle ran hard against them last week, so I expect a huge game on the ground for CMC and even Brian Robinson because last week Seattle ran a 3-headed committee for the first time all year, which was great for fantasy owners. And I'm not saying that necessarily Seattle's going to do that this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Robinson gets in a little bit more because I feel like they're going to be running the ball quite a bit. So I think Brock or Mac, in my opinion, are strong sit considerations in all formats, definitely in 1 QB leagues. Mac put up 15 points versus Arizona back in week 3, and only Daniel Jones and Bryce Young have scored more than 18 fantasy points against them, 25 each. So I look for better matchups with better options elsewhere, like Marcus Mariota and Geno Smith. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, come at me in the comments. I don't care.
So this is going to be the 3rd straight week you have a spicy hate on the show. So for everybody listening, Baker Mayfield goes for 30 big points on Sunday.
Yeah. It's in the cards, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It's written in the stars. It's written in the stars.
Guys, they have shut down so many quarterbacks. They're a very, very, very good defense.
But I think, Fab, it's more so just their running game has been so bad that their run defense has been so bad that teams are just keying in on that. And the quarterback, maybe I'd be curious to see what the passing attempts are for QBs in a lot of these games and what the rushing attempts are. But we'll see. It's a spicy take.
It's a spicy take.
Spicy.
Yeah, but they don't even have good running backs right now. So that means they're going to have to throw the ball.
Well, that's we'll see in the next segment.
I think
if their running backs are good or
exactly.
not.
What we got?
Thank
Bucky
you, Fab, for the quarterbacks. I will keep the ball rolling with the running backs, and my loves this week are going to be Sean Tucker, running back 39 at the Bills, and RJ Harvey, running back 28 versus the Chiefs. So we'll start off with Mr. Sean Tucker. He's quietly seen 21 carries over the last 2 weeks and turned that into 95 yards and a touchdown. He actually led the team in rushing last week, and he's definitely the more explosive and efficient back. And the Bucs continue to get him more involved. And the Bills just got absolutely gashed by Achane last week and have given up 6 rushing touchdowns over the past 6 games. And with Bucky Irving set to miss another game this Sunday, I think the back to roll with in this offense is Sean Tucker, and I'm starting him over guys going ahead of him. Devin Singletary at RB 38, Jordan Mason, even DeMarcado is going as RB 33, and even Tajay Spears at RB 31. I'm definitely on the Sean Tucker train this weekend.
So Bucky Irving did participate in practice, but it was a walkthrough only.
Yeah, limited in practice.
They probably sit him out, but
Yeah,
I think he's definitely going to be, for sure. It sounds like he's going to be back next week, which is very good news. But I like this call.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's out in week 12 too. I think they're bringing him back in week 13.
Yeah,
honestly, I think they're really taking his time with him. But yes, I do like this call of Sean Tucker. He seems to be the better back to own from a running back perspective. I think they're using Rachaad White more as more of a PPR scat back type merchant type guy.
I don't get why they didn't do that. That's what they did last year. That's what they did last year when Irving was out and Tucker had that like monster game against the Saints, and that's typically how they've used White, where he's more of a third down back. It hasn't really worked with White as the lead guy.
No, I remember when we were super high on him the year in the offseason that I guess was
Rashad White.
Yeah, Rashad White.
That was just you and Knack.
Okay, so now you're keeping those receipts
That's
too.
We
were all high on him.
No, Raj was definitely not. I was, and just because of like the volume, but his inefficiency with the touches he gets it's terrible.
Yeah, you guys with Rashad White and Zamir.
Oh man,
you guys
like
the whites. You guys like the whites.
The white. They're the unexciting whites.
The white way. The white way.
Exciting.
RG Harvey makes our list again on the love list. RB 20 versus the Chiefs. So he had a tough outing last week versus the Raiders in a plus matchup, but left his fantasy manager, scratching their heads after scoring 5 TDs over the previous 3 weeks. And I know not the greatest matchup on paper. J.K. Dobbins will be out for week 11, and that will open the door more for more touches for Harvey. Sean Payton actually mentioned that in his press conference, I believe it was today or yesterday. Tyler Batty, or is it Batty? Beatty?
Let's just call it Batty because it sounds better.
I think it's Bidet.
Bidet?
And it really is.
Tyler Bidet.
It is Tyler Bidet.
He's sure to be involved, and I know that they want to get McLaughlin also potentially involved, but I think Harvey with his PPR nature, and he's going to get more touches. I like him as a surefire RB2 this week, and I'm confidently starting him over the likes of Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, and even Tyrone Tracy, who's going just above him at RB27.
Tyler Batty's name is pronounced Bidet, similar to Bidet. This is a recent change, and he previously went by Beatty.
Yeah. Okay, but what do his parents go by? Because I feel like that's what's most important. You can't just change the pronunciation of your name just because you feel...
Those are my loves for this week. I've got a spicy hate for this week as well. I wanted to be like Fab this week. So my hates this week. First one's going to be Saquon Barkley, RB11 versus the Lions, and Tyrone Tracy versus the Packers. So first off with Barkley, as I mentioned, I haven't had a spicy take in a while, so here it is. And although still shifty and can cut on a dime, Saquon just has not been very efficient this season. He's averaging only 3.8 yards per carry and has gone over 100 just once all season, which was week 8 versus the Giants. And if we take that game out, he's only topped 60 rushing yards twice since week 2. The Detroit Lions have held opposing running backs to under 60 yards in 6 of their 9 games and only given up 1 rushing touchdown over the last 5 games and only 5 total on the season. So RB11 is way too rich for my blood, and I'd much prefer starting running backs Chase Young, RB13, who's got Pittsburgh this week, and Travion Anderson, RB14, who's got the Jets on Thursday night.
Let's just think about that statement for a second. Saquon Barkley is ranked RB11 this week, and that's too rich for my blood. This is the guy that rushed for 2,000 or almost 2,000 yards last year.
Yep.
Let's see how quickly things can change.
Too many touches last year. It was, but we called it. We called it at the beginning of the year that he wasn't going to have the season.
He still looks good. I don't think it's the touches.
He does look good. Yeah.
He's just not been efficient. He's not been efficient this year.
Well, last game Jurgens was out. Last game the center was out. I think they're keying in more. I think they're keying in more on Barkley. I'd love to see if he's dealing with more 8 men in the box.
Yeah,
and that allows Jalen Hurts to throw like more deeper passes on one-on-one. But
and JT right now is on higher pace than Saquon was last year for rushing yards. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
pretty crazy. Lastly, my last love is Tyrone Tracy Jr. RB27 versus the Packers, and although he had a pretty efficient stat line in Week 10 for 75, 5 yards per carry, was not enough to put up solid fantasy numbers, and he continues to be an afterthought in the passing game. Just 6 receptions for 33 yards over the past 3 games. Things don't get much easier as he gets a Green Bay defense that have stuffed the Eagles' run game on Monday night and have kept running backs in check all season. Only 100-yard rushers and 4 total TDs allowed to the position. Pair that with the likely negative game script. I don't like his chances to put up double-digit fantasy points for the first time since Week 7. So I definitely like, as I mentioned, RJ Harvey before him, even Kareem Hunt, who has the better touchdown upside.
Yeah.
They don't trust Tracy, I find.
No. Well, we're going to find out after this week, right? Because now everything is in the blender. I mean, I like the call. I don't disagree with the call at all because Green Bay defense is very good. We spoke about that even in the pre-show. But, it remains to be seen how they're going to use him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't particularly like him this week. That'll do it for my running backs. Raj, take us home with the wide receivers this week that you love and hate.
Thank you, Nak. And I think it's important to mention that we don't talk about which players we have on love hate before we do the show. It's completely spontaneous.
Yes,
but it's really crazy how much synergy we have with our players this week. So the 2 wide receivers I love this week are Tez Johnson, consensus wide receiver at 24, and Trey Tucker, consensus wide receiver 34. So we're going to start with Tez Johnson facing the Bills. I think it's a great flex start over the likes of Quentin Johnson, Khalil Shakir, Jordan Addison, Ted McMillan, and Romeo Doubs. Over the last 4 games, 83% route participation, 15% target share. He just scored 2 touchdowns against the Patriots, against that really great secondary. And we know the Bills secondary, as much as you talked about their defense, Fab, they did get beat deep quite a bit against the Dolphins and Tua. And actually, it's pretty interesting. Tez is the wide receiver 24 over this same span that I've been talking about those the last 4 games. So I think he will continue his production with Godwin and Evans out, and even more attention being put on Emeka Egbuka. Then next, I mentioned Trey Tucker. I think we all love the matchup for the Raiders against Dallas, specifically like Trey Tucker, and quite frankly, even Tyler Lockett here. But Trey Tucker specifically, Dallas has allowed the second most fantasy points to wide receivers this year. Over the last 3 games, Tucker has very good route participation metrics at 98%. While he's leading the team in targets, it has not amounted to much. But again, Fab, what did you say about the Dallas defense?
They suck in every format.
Start everybody.
Start everybody. Start everything in the kitchen sink. Start your grandmother. Start them all.
We recall early on in the season, Tucker had the 140-yard, 3-touchdown game. It was early. It was against a bad Commanders defense, but we know that he could repeat those big plays. And the Dallas Cowboys are very susceptible to the big play. Trey Tucker is a very speedy wide receiver. I think they're going to keen in on Brock Bowers, and I think it'll allow Trey Tucker to have a very nice game. So take a flyer on him over the likes of Xavier Worthy, Christian Watson, and even Darius Slayton if he plays.
Mm-hmm.
I have an honorable mention, 2 quick honorable mentions. Jerry Jeudy at Baltimore, talked about him. I think he's seeing more chemistry with Dylan Gabriel. And Jameson Williams, I think, should continue to be started, especially from what we saw with Dan Campbell taking over the play calling duties. He has a soft spot for Jameson Williams, and we saw Jameson with more crossers, more in-breaking routes, less vertical stuff, which is what they were doing previously. So I think those are 2 honorable mentions I think worth mentioning.
I love the Jameson call. Call.
And Marlon Humphrey is out for the Ravens, so that might open things up to Jeudy as well.
Very good point.
Good point.
Great calls there, Raj. Fab, you want to give us a tight end that you...
Before that, I have the 2 wide receivers I hate.
Oh, hate, excuse me.
Roger's got his hates,
I apologize.
Yes. All good.
Nack's getting too spicy.
I'm excited. What do you want me to tell you?
The 2 wide receivers I hate this week, Teteroya McMillan at wide receiver 28, and Romeo Doubs at an absolutely ridiculous wide receiver 25. So we'll start with McMillan.
Wow.
He faces a Falcons defense who allows the second fewest receptions per game to wide receivers with 9. So total wide receivers get only 9 catches per game against the Falcons. Bryce Young pains my heart, but he's looked really unsettled. I don't think the coach trusts him to throw the deep ball. They've been questioning that aspect of their offense recently with Dave Canales and the deep ball with Bryce Young, and that's where Ted McMillan typically finds a lot of success. We talked about it, better to throw a dart at Trey Tucker over T-Mac in this very tough matchup. And for Dobbs, he just hasn't scored since week 4. And as discussed, Jordan Love has looked very bad the last 2 games. I'd expect the Giants pass rush to get at Jordan Love, continue to make the passing game struggle. The only startable players for the Packers are obviously Josh Jacobs, and even Jordan Love at best is more of a like a QB2 late end QB2. So Ted McMillan and Romeo Doubs for me are the wide receivers that I hate this week.
Makes a lot of sense. Definitely makes a lot of sense. Man, those Green Bay wide receivers. I feel like we talk about this every week, but it's incredible. No one wants to step up in that offense, and it's crazy.
Dobbs has been he's been startable for the last, I want to say, month and a little bit, but he's the only one that has any sort of interest, to be honest with you, from a wide receiver perspective. He gets targets, sure, but beyond that, I mean, his big breakout game with that 3 touchdown game, I'll say like 2 months ago, but since then it's been putting up wide receiver 3 numbers.
Yeah, that offense through the air has not looked great
No.
the last few weeks, that's for sure.
No, and you kind of wonder, like, what if they lose this week versus the Giants? What are they going to do with Matt LaFleur as a head coach?
Please fire him.
Yeah,
he will be hired immediately.
Yeah, but he's definitely. I think his seat's a little hot for sure.
It is.
I think
it
it's
should
hot.
be.
It should be.
I think it's hot. It just hasn't looked good, and he's an offensive guru.
Thank you, Raj. Now, Fabio, you can give us a tight end that you love or hate this week.
I got a tight end hate. Does anyone want to take a guess as to who it is?
No.
Okay, you guys suck. It's Kate Otten versus Buffalo. So we're double dipping in the Tampa hates this week.
We're going to get all types of crap this week. We got crap last week for having like JJ McCarthy in hate and Jordan Addison in love.
Well, both my guys are in the hate, so it's
McCarthy.
You got
McCarthy
Tez Johnson,
actually,
right?
Yeah, I got Tez Johnson in the love.
Well, but against wide receivers, though, Buffalo is not a bad matchup. But like versus tight ends, they're a horrible matchup. So for some of the reasons that I mentioned for Baker Mayfield, Cade is a very tough start for me. Buffalo are very tough against tight ends. Least amount of points for. So I'm fading Cade for some more attractive tight end matchups just to give some context. So Buffalo give the least amount of targets per game to tight ends, least amount of targets per route run to tight ends, least amount of TDs to tight ends, and the least amount of yards per game to tight ends. So basically, they just swallow up any tight end that plays against them, and it's a very, very tough matchup. And I like Kate Otten. He was pretty much he was a fantasy darling on this podcast last year, quite a bit when the wide receivers got injured, and he was a staple, and he was top 10 for the rest of the season. But this week, I would be looking elsewhere. He's a sit for me. I would start both Pittsburgh tight ends over Kate Otten because they have a very nice matchup. I would start the Cleveland tight ends. I would start Zach Ertz, Dalton Schultz. I would even look at Hunter Henry. This is a very big fade for me. I think Cade is ranked as top 8 or 9 in Fantasy Pros, and I like he's on the waiver wire in some of my leagues, and I'm leaving him there this week.
Well done.
I agree with the Hunter Henry honorable mention
he's due for a game.
Yeah, he's
it's true. Classic Hunter Henry.
He's due for a 4 touchdown game. Yeah.
Speaking of Steelers wide receivers, my love at tight end for this week is going to be Jonnu Smith, who's the consensus tight end 23 versus the Bengals. So he's been kind of a shell of himself this year, not being the focal point of the offense like he was down the stretch last year in Miami. And he actually had the worst stat line of the season this last Sunday. In a game that many are trying to forget. And that being said, he gets a Bengals team that in Week 11 surrendered 4 TDs to the tight ends in that matchup just 4 weeks ago. Who did they play? They played the Steelers. So with Smith still seeing a 67% snap share, the most among all the three tight ends that get onto the field. He's averaging 4 targets a game, and I definitely like him to find the end zone again versus the Bengals. So give me Jonnu Smith over the likes of Evan Ingram, Musgrave, even Njoku, who's tight end 18.
You're not confident that Freiermuth can repeat the success he had in Week 7?
I mean, they all had success with them. Fryermuth had 2 of them. All the tight ends caught touchdown passes in that game, and Fryermuth caught 2.
So, to Nak's point, they all had at least 5 targets. Fryermuth and Jonathan Smith had 6, Darnell Washington had 5. So this is just going to be a very tight end heavy game. They're going to play 13 personnel or whatever it is. Like they're going to start every single tight end.
Yeah, and Cincinnati too is just Cincinnati versus tight ends it's insane. How I think
Fryermuth was just a lot more effective.
They give up the first amount of points, the most amount of points to tight ends. They've given up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 touchdowns to tight ends this season, and they've had 2. Like Fryermuth went for 111. Loveland a couple weeks ago went for 118. Sam Laporta, who doesn't really go for many yards, went for 92.
I think the most surprising part is that they give up more fantasy points than even like Dallas does to tight ends, which is crazy if you think about it.
One more shot
at Dallas.
They've allowed a lot of tight ends to get 2 touchdowns in a game.
Yes, well, twice. It happened with Fryermuth and it happened with Loveland.
Yeah. I'll go next for my tight end hate. It is Mr. Sam Laporta. Very tough and difficult matchup against the Eagles. I would opt for the likes of Dalton Schultz. I would even start Katie Otten, and we all mentioned Hunter Henry over Laporta. The reasoning is very simple. On the season, the Eagles allow the 3rd fewest points to tight ends, 3 receptions and 31 yards per game. They've only allowed 1 tight end to score a touchdown as well. The defense is humming. We saw how they played on Monday night against the Eagles. Against the Packers. And there's so many weapons that can cover Laporta. They have at linebacker. They have at safety. And Laporta, who, one interesting stat, his end zone targets have dropped from 30% last season to 10% this season. Obviously, they're opting maybe more to pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown or the running back. So definitely hate the matchup for Sam Laporta against the Eagles.
I like it.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup. I agree.
That will do it for the love-hate segment and the episode this week. Guys, please make sure to follow us on all the social media platforms and let us know what you think about this spicy take episode we had here. Quite a lot of spicy takes going down in the love-hate section. So I hope to hear from all of you. We'll see you guys again next week. Raj, the music.
Well, we will hear from everyone.
I can't wait, guys. When my hates hit, because I know they will, you're gonna hear it like there's no tomorrow next week. So come at me at the comments, write your names, put everything down. I'm gonna go through each one of them next week's episode when all of my hates hit. Thank you very much. I'm not even worried. Do I look worried? I'm not worried. I'm not worried.
You should be worried.
Child, please.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Peace out.
Goodbye.